like a boss.
And I'm gonna put it on YouTube too, okay? Because my followers love you. My followers really like your videos. I mean, your books. You know, let me before anything, these are your books, and this is a painting of you, little one. But it
I
was
think I was beaten up by somebody.
yeah, you were right. It was
Yeah.
inspired by this book. Your
Uh,
your your book mastery inspired me to start painting. You know,
wow, that's nice.
yeah, man, your books work. I'm telling you, like you know that, but I just wanted to show you that your books really work, man. It's
Well,
phenomenal.
that's why I write them. That's music to my ears. I'm
Oh
very,
yeah, I bet I
very
bet
happy
it
to hear
is. Let me ask you this: like, what is? Let me see. It's recording, right? What inspired mastery? Where did that come from? That because that book, the further I get into it, the more profound it gets. I mean, how did you come up with that?
well, I was inspired to write the book because I was worried. Um, I think people had a kind of a misconception about what it takes to be good at something, to be creative. That, we live in an age where everything is so fast and easy with our phones and our apps, etc., that a lot of people think everything should come easy and quick. So I was very worried, particularly about young people who I don't think are getting the right kind of advice from mentors and people who have had years of working in a field. And the idea is, everybody wants things to be quick and easy, as if they're a shortcut to mastering a subject. And I wanted to write the book to remind people that that's not how the brain works. You have to work with what evolution gave you. You have this tool, and you don't know how to use the tool, your brain. You're filled with all these illusions and all these misconceptions that come from social media, that come from the kind of stupidity, the general stupidity that's out there. You need to understand that the brain works a certain way, and it takes time. You have to be patient. You have to spend years developing skills. And when you put the time in it and you put the effort, something brilliant and amazing will happen. So that's what inspired me. I was kind of concerned about people thinking that there's always these shortcuts to success or being great at something. And then the book itself comes alive the way I normally do any book. I do massive amounts of research. I researched people in all different fields, as you know, if you've read the book, in the sciences and in the arts, etc. And I interviewed some people who I considered to be contemporary masters in their field. And based on the data and the information that I received from my research, I devised, a kind of a path that anyone can take to mastering their field and to mastering themselves. And that path includes the 6 steps that are in the book. So all of my books are sort of an organic process that come through the research. And that sort of was the genesis for mastery.
Yeah, you could sense it because it takes random paths. Like it just goes in random directions that doesn't make you wouldn't expect it, but it blows your mind when you listen to it. Like the dimensional mind. That's like that chapter is so profound. It's like, what?
Oh, thank you.
It's like, how the hell did you come up with that?
I don't know, it's just part of my own weirdness.
Yeah. Do you feel
Uh,
like it was another person who wrote that, looking at it from this perspective now?
oh no,
No?
yeah, it was me. Um, I've been writing since I was wanting to be a writer since I was 8 years old,
Mhm.
and then writing when I was in my 20s all the way up to now. And so I've had a lot of experience, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of rejection. So I feel like I know at least what it takes to be really great at writing. And so the book is kind of a distillation of research and my own experiences. So these things are felt. They're not just intellectual ideas. So to give you an idea, in that chapter that you mentioned, which is about creativity, it's the 5th chapter, I have something in there about how you have to kind of love what you're doing. You have to have a relationship to your work. that involves, I hate the word passion because it's so stupid and cliched. It just has to be, you're excited, you're in love, you want to share whatever it is you're creating, a business, a work of art, book. And it's reflected, your energy is reflected in the product. And so when, so just take for a book, when people read a book, they can sense who you are. It's not in the lines, it's in between the lines. It's the style, it's the tone. They can sense that it comes from someplace real. And I've always felt that way in all of my books, that if I put myself in a state of mind where I'm desperate to share my ideas with the audience, I'm so excited and I'm really, really in love with what I'm doing, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And so ideas like that came from my own experience. So, you know, it was definitely me who wrote it, but, you know, there was a little bit of inspiration involved. Maybe it was the gods who gave me all of the book. I don't know. It's possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me tell you something, Robert, man. When I took DMT, I took it in Mexico a couple weeks ago.
You're
And
talking
DMT, I took DMT a couple weeks ago in Mexico. And when I take it, they speak to me, like the beings or your subconscious, you don't, who knows, they speak to me. And I remember asking them, and I was like, DMT, whatever the fuck his name was, am I more curious than Leonardo da Vinci? And then they were like, no, you're not, like making fun of me. They were like, no, you're not. And then he was like, then he starts talking about different masters, and he brought up David Blaine, right? And then he brought up you. And they were like,
who is this?
it's when you know when you take you don't know what, David Blaine or the DMT?
No, the person who said this.
It's just, I don't know. It's like either spirits, the DMT entities, I don't know. But they talked about that you're one of the modern day masters, and I believe that your books, hundreds of years from now, will be regarded in the same light as the Prince, without a doubt. I mean, come on, like in hip hop, your power, that book Power, it's like a cult like thing. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's very humbling, you know, because I never expected quite to have this level of notoriety with my books.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm pretty honored, but when you say things like that, I don't take it for granted. It means a lot to me. Also, it means a lot to me, my legacy, because we don't live forever. But it's always been important to me that people will be reading me long after I'm dead, so that I have like influence, so that my life had a meaning, had a purpose. So when you say things like that, I'm you know, I'm very honored. So thank you.
Without a shadow of a doubt, your books, if Earth still remains, is going to be right up there. You know, because you know what happens when we die, our legacy increases and it becomes more enhanced. You know what I'm saying? So it's bound to happen. But let me ask you this: where do you think the current generation is going? Because there's so much distraction, so many feeling of envy, feeling of missing out. Where do you think everyone is heading towards? What collision path do you think? You know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of people don't have purpose, you know?
Yeah. Well, it can go in several directions. I'm not a prophet. You know, I know that I've made predictions before in the past and I've been wrong. And so I've always reminded myself that I really can't foretell the future. But in my last book, The Laws of Human Nature, I have a chapter on generations and the generation phenomenon and what we call the zeitgeist. And we notice that there are patterns throughout history, that generations tend to follow this certain pattern where there will arise a generation is about 20 years, 23 years, and there'll arise a generation that creates some kind of revolution. It could be political, it could be in the arts, it could be cultural, where they overturn the way the direction the world is going. And then the subsequent generation is trying to kind of hold on to what the previous generation created. They're kind of more conservative. They're trying to sustain the spirit and the revolution that went on, but some of that spirit is starting to dim as people are trying to just simply hold on to what was already created. And then a third generation comes up that's even more conservative and kind of dogmatic. And it's all about these principles that are set in stone. And people start getting bored and they start getting restless. And then there comes a fourth generation, which is the crisis generation, where they're sick of the way the world is. They're sick of all the rules. They're sick of all the conventions, all the banal ideas, and they're very restless. And it's a time of great turmoil. And it leads to the next revolution, the next generation that creates revolution. So it's my belief, and I'm not the only one that says that the generation now, and when I talk about creating this pattern, I'm talking about young people, because it's young people in their 20s and 30s who really are the generators of change in our world. And if cultures and systems and politics don't change, it's very dangerous. You know, I'm a student of Machiavelli, and Machiavelli believed that change was absolutely essential. You needed a dynamic culture. So I'm talking about young people who are the generators of that. So looking at the young people now, if you want the millennials or Generation Y, they're kind of going through the crisis generation where things are really tired and conventional. And they've had to inherit a world from the boomers that isn't the world that they live in. It's not their experience anymore. And it doesn't relate to them. And I'm talking about from business to the arts, to whatever field you want to talk about. And so this is leading up to what probably will be some kind of revolution. And, you know, I personally was excited by all the protests that were going on several months ago, because I saw that as a spark that people were alive, that people were feeling the need to be together and to express their frustration and their bitterness at the state of the world right now. Because things are bleak, they're bad, you know. Here in California, you know, between the fires and the pandemic and everything, it's looking apocalyptic. So young people I feel are at a turning point. They're inundated with social media to the point where it's damaging their minds. I think social media is like candy. It can rot your brain. It can rot your system. It has many factors, some factors that are good, but some factors that are negative, like you talked about envy, etc., and tribalism. And it's my belief, the optimist in me believes that there's something in the human spirit that cannot stand what's becoming of us, how our minds are so narrow and constricted right now. So I'm hoping that young people, particularly the generation coming up, are going to create something new, are going to create a political system, an economic system that reflects more of who they are and what they need. And I will be so excited if that happens, because I'm on their side.
Well, I'm hoping you guys are enjoying this interview. Just a little reminder, we have a Robert Greene book club where we break down all of his videos and all of the chapters in his video, and we just break it down per video, all right? So if you want to see how to apply his books, such as the 48 Laws of Power, how to apply it in daily life, because I know a lot of people struggle how to apply it, how to apply the art of seduction, how to apply mastery. I pretty much interpret what Robert Greene says, and in a way that you guys can apply. Not that Robert Greene's books are not good, trust me, they're better than anything in the world, but it's just my take. So check out the Robert Greene book club, the description down below. It's $20 a month and you get 2 or 3 videos per month. It's pretty good. So, and you get them in audio form too, so that you can listen to it as you're walking by down the street. All right, so let's get back to the interview.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, it is. It's so unpredictable. You just don't know where things will head out. You know, you could sort of have a template of how things usually happen, but the direction where things turn is almost difficult to predict. You know?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm sure I'll be wrong. You know, I've been wrong before, so just take that. You know.
I mean, like you said in your book, I forgot who's the guy. I think it's Wolfgang von Goethe, the one who was able to predict a lot of things in the future.
Yeah, he could.
Yeah, right. And it's like, it's a muscle that, yeah, you're wrong most of the time, but you're right more often than most people.
Well, you can feel something in the air, and I can feel a general restlessness that is going on, even among older people. Everyone is upset and doesn't feel happy with the way things are. And it's very different from how things were 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's very powerful. And I think it could be positive, but you know, I'm not sure.
You could sense the same in London. I'm in London right now, and it's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah. It's dark in here. I'm not that dark, Robert.
what are you doing in London? I thought you were in Philadelphia because it's Temple University.
No, I went there, but because of the pandemic, I'm going to different art schools because art schools in the United States are not in person.
What school are you going to?
Well, I was in Mexico, this some random art school, and then I'm in London. It's a London fine art studio, but I didn't like it too much, So I'm going back to Mexico and studying back there.
Well, Mexico City.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I love Mexico City. That's great.
It's beautiful. Good tacos.
Yeah, and there's a very alive culture there.
No,
I love, I love the people in Mexico more than anything.
yeah, it's they're just so friendly, They're so inviting. It
Yeah,
causes anxiety how inviting they are to me.
I know.
Let me ask
I
you
know.
this, Barbara. How? Because I'll be honest with you, ever since I started like getting more, I smoke a lot of weed, and ever since I started like getting into more social media and being more alone and smoking, which causes me to be more alone. How do you deal with getting out of that social anxiety? You know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like you get comfortable in that warm in your own, little prison. Does that make sense? Because I know that's a lot of kids now too.
Of course, it makes sense. And I went through that phase very much so. There's nothing wrong with being alone. I think actually it's a problem that so many people nowadays can't be alone. And I don't think you can create anything worthwhile unless you're willing to sit in a room by yourself and think and reflect and read books and take notes, etc. So being alone is a good thing to me. But of course you can take it too far. And what happens, because I've been through that, I remember I once spent, when I was in my early 20s, I was wandering all around Europe. And I lived, if you can believe it, on an island in Greece, in a cave for several weeks. I didn't see any people. And then I came out and I was like really awkward. I didn't know how to be around people because I hadn't been around them for several weeks. So the thing is, you've got to force yourself to socialize because it's a muscle that you will lose. And in my day, when I was smoking pot, which was, we're going back to
Oh,
the
Robert, let's go.
going back to the 70s, I'm afraid.
I saw that picture of you. You're like,
That's my hippie. I had long hair.
yeah, man, it's funny.
Rock and roll. Back in those days, smoking pot was a social thing. We did it together in a group, and we kind of had our in jokes. And I remember I was in Berkeley at the time. We would do things. We would smoke pot. We would go up to the top of the hill, like a group of us, 10 of us. We'd watch the sunset. We'd be like applauding and cheering as the sun was going down. Things like that. So I have very fond memories of social. But getting back to the point is, you need a balance. Everything in life requires a balance. So you need time to be alone, and then you need to not go too deeply into that. And you have to build that in where you're able to socialize when you want to. It's not forced on you, but you're able to go hang out with your friends. In other words, it's dangerous to go down that rabbit hole for too long, I think.
You did say in your book Mastery that it's a romantic view that artists live alone all the time, and that it's important to socialize amongst other artists and other people because that's how you generate different ideas from different people. But you also talk about how Isaac Newton, it wasn't him when there was a plague and he went for 20 months. I remember that part in Mastery, and it was
Yeah.
those 20 months when he discovered a lot of his mathematical theories. I believe so, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who discovered themselves as writers in prison.
Yeah, Malcolm X became
Malcolm X, to name one.
yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I wrote that chapter in Mastery about social intelligence because I've been around a lot of artists in my time. And there are a lot of people who are very talented and gifted, who are extremely creative, but they don't know how to interact with people. They don't know how to sell themselves if they have to. They don't know how to show their artwork or charm people with how they talk about their work. And it limits you. So you can be very talented, but if you're really bad at the social aspect, the social game, you're not going to get very far. So there shouldn't be any shame attached to it, because the idea, you know, people are automatically going, oh man, that sounds like you have to be wearing a mask, you have to be playing a role, you have to be inauthentic. But I really dislike that idea. You know, to get along with people, you have to play a role, you have to wear a mask, and you have to be good at that. And really successful artists, people and who are also massively creative, learn how to play that game to some extent. So it's a myth that, that your talent will get you wherever you want. There are plenty of talented people who who you've never heard of, because they don't know how to interact with people. They're very awkward. So that's why I wrote that chapter.
Yeah, it's almost like that's why the best artists usually are not the most famous artists. You know, it's because you could be like an 80% good artist, and there's 100% quote unquote artist. But if your social intelligence is at 100 and the other one at a 50, you're gonna be more successful
It's
because
true.
you know how to charm people. You know how to, you know, like especially I always tell people that if you wanna as artists read Mastery and Power, both books. You
That's
know,
right. That's a
because
good idea.
yeah,
That's, you know, because a lot of artists are very bad at the power thing. They think that's something they shouldn't have to do, that they want to keep their hands clean, they want to be pure. There's something impure about being Machiavellian. And there isn't, actually, not at all.
why do you think that? Why do people have this? Do you think it's the elites that gives the masses the like a universal guilt for power so that they could keep it, or is it more human?
I think you hit it right there. So when I wrote the book back in I started writing in 1996. I had been working in Hollywood, and I personally had never had a lot of power myself. I was trying to be a screenwriter, and I wasn't successful, and I hated Hollywood. I really disliked all the games people were playing, all the manipulation, all the stupid politics. Everyone would talk about it was about, you know, creating a film, but it was really about power.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote the book, not from a position of being a powerful person, but actually from being someone who suffered from the games that other powerful people played on me, right? So like I worked for a film director, and I would write whole bits of his screenplay and dialogue that would later get into the film. He wouldn't put my name on it. He wouldn't give me credit. And that ended up being law number 7. Always get other people to do the work, but take the credit, you know? So as an artist, as a writer, as a musician or whatever, you have to be aware that these are the rules of the game. These are how people play it. And you don't have to be evil. I'm not telling you to be evil. You don't have to crush your enemy totally, but you have to have your eyes open and not be an innocent little simpleton. You have to understand that the people who run the art galleries, the people who run the publishing houses, the people who run the record labels are very political. They're very power hungry, and they're going to manipulate you because artists are generally quite naive. So I really wanted to pound that idea in, you know, it's very important.
Yeah, I always tell people that it makes no sense that the people with bad intentions read the books on power, and the people who are good don't read the books on power, and yet they want someone good in power. You know,
Yeah,
like, like I said that the best kind of politicians will be a politician who acts like a politician, but he really is a sheep in wolf's clothing.
yeah.
Once he gets the power, then he switches it up. You know, but
But getting back to the point you made, a lot of people who are in power, they don't like to have the game revealed. They like to keep these a secret. This is how people in power for hundreds of years have operated. They don't want to share it with others. That's why my book was the first really book to do that, you know, because it was kind of like a naughty little secret. People aren't supposed to have this knowledge, right? And I have since been friends with and worked with several rappers who are, you know, quite successful, 50
Drake.
Cent and Drake.
Yeah. I think I heard
And
about
they
that.
all told me that, you know, nothing had prepared them for the music business, particularly 50, who'd seen so much on the streets of Southside Queens, you know, he was a drug dealer at a young age. He'd seen everything. He'd seen guns and shootouts and gang fights and murder and everything. He said, nothing prepared me for the music business. it was mostly these white guys who ran all the labels, who were just the most incredible sharky people you would ever meet. But they didn't want the rappers to know about the games that were being played. They wanted to control them, you know? And this is how Black artists and musicians have been exploited since the 1920s, since the birth of jazz, you know? Keep it a secret. You're just our little pawn. Well, you be creative. We'll take all the money. We'll run your life for you. And so people like 50 and Drake said the book helped them open their eyes to the games that powerful people play. And there shouldn't be any guilt attached to that. It should be like, we're leveling the playing field here.
Yeah, I remember in your book, there was a quote that said that Machiavelli said that if you read my book or something like that, and you don't want people to be suspicious, write a book that talks against my book, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why anytime I see people who put on an air of being innocent and angel in public light, I'm always suspicious of them. Always.
Oh, right. I'm there with you, man. I believe that. So I have a thing in Laws of Human Nature. I call it the shadow side of people's person, the dark side of everyone. Everybody has a dark side. It's inevitable.
You got a dark side, Robert? For real?
Oh, of course I do. So generally, I'm trying to teach you how to look at people and not be deceived by their appearances.
Mhm.
So people who give off a very extreme persona, like they're very macho, or they're very pure and angelic, they're usually hiding the opposite, because that's what they've learned since they were a child. They learned that being really aggressive or being really kind of evil, they're not going to have any friends. So they learn to project the opposite. They learn to project, that I'm a saint. And so even like with a macho person, like a President Trump or Vladimir Putin, I'm always of the opinion, and I study their body language, that they're hiding the opposite. They're hiding deep wells of insecurity, and probably, I'm afraid to say, a kind of a feminine side to them that they're very afraid of, right? So people who are overly saintly are often the ones who are the most passive aggressive. That's been my experience, at least. I mean, not to say that there aren't true saints out there, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah, no, they are rare. When you meet them, you could sense it. Like it's hard. I've met a few of them. I know what you're talking about, but you can only count them with your fingers. You can only count them with your finger. But most people, they're just not integrated, like you said in your book. They're not integrated, and they're afraid that if they show their dark side, people are not going to like them. But like you said, you want to see people. You want people to see the contours of your shadow, because that makes you more interesting, more dynamic as a human, and more creative.
Yeah, and more real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you're an artist, you have to use your shadow. You have to bring it out, because look, we live in a culture that's very repressed.
Yeah.
So much political correctness and so much virtue signaling going on that people are really kind of oppressed by it. And they're excited, they're attracted to any kind of work that expresses the dark side, that expresses what they feel, but they cannot say because they're too afraid. So I know for myself that my dark side is I have a lot of anger,
I could
a lot
sense
of
it in your books.
huh?
I could sense it in your books.
Yeah,
In power.
yeah, for sure. There's certain things I don't like. I hate them. I have that, I don't deny it. I really hate people who pretend to be something that they're not, who pretend to be all into culture, etc., when it's really about power, who pretend to be these super liberal guys or women, but they're in fact treat their employees like shit, etc. I hate it. And so I use my hatred, I channel it into my books. I don't go out and hit people or hurt people. I channel that energy into the dark energy into my books and make it productive. And I think, when I was talking to 50, what really made his music, his first albums, which I think are his best, really,
Yeah.
so great, was there was so much real anger and bitterness in there. So many things that he had suffered, and he put it in the music and you can feel it. So don't be afraid of channeling this energy into productive ways, into fighting for a cause, into creating a business that supports what you believe in, or into writing a book or doing a film that expresses the frustration and bitterness that you're feeling inside of you.
Yeah, and like in my industry, I'm a dating coach,
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
yeah, I'm a dating coach. And what I hate the most is these angel dating coaches. I teach women, and what they do is that they make a pink background, they soften their voice, they put glitter in the fucking screen, and they're like, "You are an angel." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're not a fucking angel, man. Get out of here." You know, and it's like when people watch my channel compared to these angel dating coaches, yeah, of course, there's some frustration, but it's because I know what they're saying is bullshit. They're just trying to make women feel good about themselves and just trying to act like men are not manipulative. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just irritating to me.
Well, have you read The Art of Seduction?
Robert, come on, of course. Robert, come on, Robert. Oh yeah, I read that. Tell me about it.
Well, you know, people got really kind of angry about that book. Some people did.
Oh, they did.
I
Yeah.
called the person you're doing a victim, and I had kind of strong language about it. But the idea is,
Were you trolling when you called it victim? Were you like kind of trolling a little bit?
a little bit.
Yeah, I know you were.
Because I was sick like you are of all of these saintly kind of Valentine's Day books out there about dating, etc. I mean, women and men have to know, particularly men should know, that being extra nice isn't often the most seductive quality, right? Mm-hmm. That having a little bit of an edge is actually more powerful and seductive. But the point of it is the psychology of seduction always involves an element of naughtiness, of the taboo, of what's transgressive, right? That's what makes the word, whenever you see the word, it pops out and you're excited because there's an edge of something illicit, something that you shouldn't really be doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so to avoid that, to make it all about sweetness and roses and chocolates and hearts is just bullshit, is to disavow the actual psychology that seduction involves.
Yeah, it's almost like why is that though? Why do people, is it because of childhood and parents put you in a little cocoon where you think the world is like this and so you expect it when you go outside? I mean, like, why do people have this misconception of what really makes people like them? I think it's Hollywood. I think it's just these like rom-coms.
Yeah. Well, you know, men don't really watch those, but you're talking about the effect on women. Yeah, well,
no, dude. I remember when I watched Hitch, I thought I had to save a puppy to get a woman. It's just has like Disney. Disney is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, well, Hollywood's all about creating these silly little fairy tales and these myths about how everything is just sort of sweetness and light. I mean, there have been some movies out there that have kind of shown the darker side of seduction. I remember Magnolia with Tom Cruise. That was kind of an interesting film. But that aside, I think we want to believe, we've been fed this idea that people are generally great and nice, and you get ahead in life by being nice, by charming people, by telling them what they want to hear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To the point where, yeah, we're fed a lot of that through media, through film, through social media. And it's not really the truth. The truth is that if you're too nice, it's good to be nice, don't get me wrong. But if you're too pleasant and too nice and too accommodating, people don't respect you, right? They look down on you. They won't ever say it. They won't ever say, I look down on you, but they're feeling it. They feel that person is so nice that, you know, I don't really think he's worth that much, because they intuit the fact that you're trying to please comes from a deep position of insecurity, right? So this desire to please everyone is not going to get people to like you at all. In fact, you have to know, you have to know how to play the distance game. So this is the most common aspect of seduction. I'm sure you encounter it all the time. You assume that if you're always there, always writing emails, texting, phoning, being there, that this will win the other person, that you're gonna overwhelm them with your affection. and you don't realize that you're frightening them and you're showing insecurity. If you disappear for 2 or 3 days, suddenly, and it's a manipulation, believe me, it's a manipulation. Suddenly they're starting to respect you. Suddenly they're starting to think of you. Suddenly they're not thinking of you as someone who's just out there to please. And the seduction, the psychology involved starts to affect them, and they start fantasizing about it. So you have to know how to create distance and absence and not always be in people's faces. So these are counterintuitive examples of what seduction is really about.
And I like to think of it, you're giving them a gift. You're giving them an experience. Who doesn't want somebody who they lost hope and now it's back? It's like coming back from the dead.
Exactly.
It's a great experience. And you might call it manipulation, but I call it like orchestrating an orchestra. And it's like, it's a beautiful experience, you know? It's like
I compare it more to theater, right? Kind of like a play or a story or a film where there's an arc where things are going up and down and up and down, and you never know what's going to happen next. When you were a child, what you loved most of all were games or things with like hide and seek, or when your father would carry you on his back and you didn't know where he was taking you. The idea of suspense or surprise is built into our nature. It excites us because the idea is, what's coming next? I don't know. So if your person that you're trying to seduce knows what's coming next, there's no seduction, there's no surprise, there's no psychology going on. They're not thinking about you. But if they don't know what this person's going to do next, where they're going to take me, whether they're going to call me that day, whether they're going to respond to my email, where we're going, where he or she is taking me, that has incredible power behind it. So it's just about understanding certain basics of human psychology, which a lot of people don't understand anymore.
And it's because, like you said in your book, in The Laws of Human Nature, is that the reason why most people don't do this is because they're selfish. They're thinking about themselves, about their own needs. And they don't know, and the reason why they're not unpredictable is not because they can't, or because they don't want to. They're too anxious, you know? Like I remember in your book, The 33 Strategies of War, you said there are 3 laws of human nature. I remember before you came out with The Laws of Human Nature, I had all your books on Kindle, and I was like, I need to read this book. So what I did is I went on Kindle and then just put Laws of Human Nature in all of your books, because you say that a lot. And so
I didn't know that.
you do, yeah. And there was one, and so I found out a lot of laws of human nature with just doing that. And so one of the laws, you said that there are 3 of them in war, and when it comes to weakness, they were like, 1, people are always sensing for weakness, right? 2, people cannot resist a weak target. And 3, people are always sending either signs of weakness or strength, right? And so it's kind of like when you're so nice, even a good person will turn evil because you're so fucking easy. You're too easy. I gotta use you. It's like even children.
Yeah, you know, it's like people can sense that in you, and if they sense that someone is weak and insecure, it brings out the lion in them, the aggressor in them. They may not normally be aggressors, but it makes them want to take over, right? Here's a ripe target that I can use. And you'll notice in your life that, you know, nothing is actually this or that. Everything's kind of a mix of things.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I'm a relatively aggressive person. I'm not the most aggressive, but I have that side of me. I'm competitive. So in front of some people, though, I can be extra competitive and extra aggressive because they make me feel that way. And then I go see somebody else who's much more aggressive than I am, and it makes me shy and timid, and I become a different person. How you think about yourself causes the reaction in the other person, right? You don't realize how much you are responsible for how people treat you, how people look at you. If you come to them feeling strong and like you're in command, you elicit a moment of respect. And then they treat you a certain way. And the opposite happens when you show your weakness. So this shows you, and I talk a lot about it in Human Nature, about how be aware of how people are reading you. They're reading you constantly. And how you feel about yourself, what you project, will cause them to react a certain way.
And how do you communicate strength? I remember in one of your books, you talked about lowering your nonverbals, right? But how do you communicate that strength from like first impression?
Well, it can't be completely faked. If you really are a deeply insecure person, it's going to come out. You can't conceal it.
Yeah.
It'll come out with little niggly comments, but oh, you didn't really like that. Oh, you don't like the way I'm dressed. Oh, blah 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 blah. It'll leak out. It'll leak out in your face. You don't realize. I wrote in Laws of Human Nature that 95% of human communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
And you're not aware of it yourself, but you yourself are always reading other people in this way. So if you're massively insecure, it'll show in your eyes. It'll show in your tense kind of smile, that kind of smile like that, right? It'll show in your body language. You can't really conceal it. So you have to go through a process of feeling confident about yourself. And that's not easy. I talk about it in all of my books. I say, act like a king to be treated like a king, feel that you are worthy, understand, have a degree of self-love, and think that you are worth the things that you want in life, and stop groveling so much, and stand up and be strong, and realize that you are an interesting person. You have unique things to contribute. And from a position of strength, then it's much more easy to project that. And then after that, you have to understand some basics. So I know on a podcast I have to talk a lot, but in general, talking a lot is a sign of weakness,
Yeah.
right? It shows that you can't control yourself, that you can't control your tongue. You just want to go on and on talking about this, that, and the other. It's a number one sign of insecurity, right? So the ability to be quiet, to be silent, to let the other person talk is a sign of inner strength, of confidence. And not only is it a good sign for you, letting the other person talk more allows you to learn more about them and their psychology, so you can get out of your own little shell, right? And it makes you look like you're somebody who's empathetic because you're listening so much. So these are signals that reveal, a degree of inner confidence. In Seduction, I have a chapter on charisma and charismatics.
Love that chapter.
Yeah, well, I compare it to a charismatic is someone who has like a light bulb inside of them. And you don't see it because it's inside, but it lights them up from within. It lights up their eyes. It lights up their hand gestures. It lights up their posture, their words, and it makes you fall in love with them because it shows how strong and confident it is. We're attracted to people like that. So you have to some degree, feel this confidence. You can build it, you can amplify it. But if you're beginning from a position of massive insecurity, that's the number one put off.
Yeah, it's and it's very hard to see it. You think you're acting confident, but like it's very hard to see how others see you. Like even if you really try, it's you can't really get it unless you're looking back at yourself from many years.
No, you say things. You're obviously someone who has a lot of experience in this because you say a lot of wise things. So trying too hard, trying to act like you're confident when you're not really, people can see through that. They can see through your bravado. It doesn't really work. That's why I mean it has to come from at least a position of some kind of realness.
Yeah, that's why I would say the self is always coming through. No matter how hard you try, it'll always come through.
Yeah.
Now look, Robert, like I remember I took shrooms one time, and then I listened to your chapter on death denial. I like to listen to your books when I'm on shrooms, especially the guy who you hired to read the laws of human nature sounds like God is talking. It is something beyond belief. And I remember I took a strong dose of edibles, right? And I was just tripping because I took too much, and I was avoiding that chapter of death denial. And I promise you, Robert, that chapter, most people don't read that chapter. I'm just letting you know. Most people do not read that chapter. I wasn't gonna read it, but then it was late at night, and then all I heard was death denial, and I was like, "Oh fuck, not this chapter." But Robert, the two chapters that really changed me was, first of all, the one about Martin Luther King. That story, man. Oh my God, that man! I grew so much respect for Martin Luther King. It's crazy, and the one on death. Man, like, so talk about it, because I know you're writing a book, Robert. I know you are about the sublime. Okay, don't be slick. Talk about it, because that's I did a seminar based on your book, based on that chapter on death, It's
Oh,
my favorite. It's my favorite chapter.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's my favorite chapter, man.
Well, you know, it's very important to me on several levels because I've always been someone who's been sort of obsessed with death, and I'm obviously afraid of it, but I've had to deal with it my whole life.
Hmm.
And I think people who tend to be a little bit sensitive, like I admit that I am, generally have a kind of avoidant relationship to death and its reality. But on the other hand, I'm an extremely realistic, pragmatic person. And I'm aware constantly every day that my life is limited. And what happened is I wrote that chapter that you're talking about. And then 2 months later, I came this close to dying myself, right? I had a stroke, which I'm still suffering from. And my wife was in the car and she got me to pull over. I was driving.
Oh my God.
And if I was alone, because I'm often alone, I'm often swimming or hiking, I wouldn't be here.
Thank
So
God.
the reality of what I wrote in that chapter suddenly became very real. And the idea is that this is the ultimate reality facing all of us. We can argue about everything, about politics, about art, about what we like, what we hate, but nobody can argue about death, right? It's the end. We're all facing it. Okay. And if you're spending your life avoiding the thought, because it's not a great thought, I admit, you're going to pay a price for it. You don't realize it, but you're creating all kinds of anxiety in yourself that's related to the anxiety of your mortality, but you're not conscious of it. And it makes you fearful of people. It makes you afraid to take a risk in your career. It makes you afraid to cut off a relationship with a person because these are little deaths. These are little deaths that happen and you're not wanting to face them. But turning around and facing death, at first, it's very difficult and it's painful, but it creates an incredibly amazing feeling of freedom. And the person I felt that with was 50 Cent. Um, it's also the last chapter in the 50th Laws about the Sublime. And 50 had been shot 9 times this close right through his mouth. He came closer than I did to dying. And he's somebody that doesn't care about anything in the world. He has a sense of priorities that, okay, if somebody disses me here, you think it's the opposite, but he doesn't really care. All the beefs and all the fights that he has in the media, they're kind of a put on, they're drama. He doesn't really care. He's not worried about failing. He's not worried about, losing money and going bankrupt or missing out on a deal because he's faced death and what's going to scare him anymore. So the ability to confront it gives you a tremendous feeling of freedom, right? But the other thing is, your days are numbered. I'm sorry to say, you're younger than me, Alexis, but you could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
You could be hit by a double-decker bus in London, or you could get COVID. You think when you're young that you have endless vistas of time, but it's not true. So the relationship to your mortality, we're thinking about it every day, gives you energy, a sense of urgency. I know when I came back from the hospital and I was still in a wheelchair, I was in a bed, just seeing the sky, seeing life outside, seeing my garden. Wow, man, I'm looking at it through a much different eyes because it almost was never almost gone. So making yourself aware is going to give you a feeling of gratitude that you're alive, that the world is here, that you're young, that you have energy, that that life is pumping through you. You have a heart, it's beating, you're seeing the sun, you're not buried underground. It creates this energy and this excitement in you. It also makes you not afraid of other things. And it also connects you to other people.
Yeah.
I remember one day I was walking in New York down shortly after, like a month after I finished my book, and I was seeing all the people on the streets. I think it was on Fifth Avenue, or I don't know, actually I was on the West Side. And there was just hundreds of people. And I was thinking, wow, in like 60, 70 years, all these people will be dead, right? No one will be left. And it was a weird thought, and I can't really explain it, but it brought out my humanity. It made me appreciate people. it made me understand that everybody feels vulnerable and weak in relation to their mortality. So it was a way to kind of bond with them. And then, as I'm going to express in my new book, which is The Law of the Sublime, it creates a kind of expansion of your consciousness in general, kind of like a drug might do, because it makes you aware. Denying death is denying life, right? And when you deny life, colors aren't as vibrant as they are. The sky isn't as blue as it is. People aren't as interesting as they are. But when you're feeling that you're connected to both sides to life and death, that they exist in you, that you carry death within you as you walk around, it makes everything pop, makes everything interesting. You know, it just animates the whole universe. And I think people are really missing that sense. I don't know, that's...
No, 100%. And like, I remember I did a seminar in New York City about death, and I was like, and it was in February, and I was like, imagine if the streets were empty all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, Corona happened. You know,
wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I should have never said that. You know, and something that I learned from your book is an exercise that I do all the time is when I see an older person, I imagine them being their younger version, so that I can feel the expansion of time. When I see a younger person, I imagine them being older, so I don't feel that youth envy. You know, and other things that I like to do, which you said about that.
Exercise. I like that.
Oh, thank you. I got that from your book, man. Okay. Another one is watching videos from, you know how you have those old footage of old New York City, right? Like, I like watching those videos because you get an eerie feeling. You're like, those people are dead, all of them, children.
I know, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. It's all. I like watching old movies too, because I think, like, I'm there. Like, it's the 1940s, everything looks different, people are dressed different, but I feel like I'm actually there, like I'm a ghost, that I can see these people, and I know that they are dead, and seeing that they are dead changes my whole relationship to them. That's a whole thing that I'm going to be discussing about the law of the sublime, our relationship to the past, and how we can alter our relationship to the past, and how we can make it something truly sublime. I'm not going to spoil that chapter.
No, don't spoil it, man. Don't spoil it. You can spoil it to me, but not to the others. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people just feel depressed, and a lot of people don't feel motivation because they think they have unlimited time, you know?
Yeah. No.
Now,
I thought I had unlimited time, but I didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, you're right. Okay. But let me ask you this. I have some questions to ask you. Is it okay? What's the time that we have right now? I don't want to much of your time.
How much more time were you thinking of?
I don't know. 10 hours?
No, I don't have that.
I'm kidding with you, Robert. I'm kidding with you, man. Give me like 10, 20, 15 minutes. Because there's some parts of your book, like, for example, let me give you an example. Like, when you say destroy your enemies, but you also have a chapter that says keep your enemies close. Which ones do you destroy and annihilate completely, and which ones do you keep close? You know, that's the part I'm kind of...
Well, it depends. It depends on who you are, where you are in life. The Crush Your Enemy Totally chapter isn't about you individually. Delex is going out and crushing your enemy totally. That's kind of cruel and ridiculous. Okay. It's about if you have a country, a business, any kind of group, and you're facing an enemy that's powerful, right? It's how the tech business operates here in America, in Silicon Valley, or in China, or anywhere else. When a business feels like there's a competitor out there, they don't do half measures. They go out and buy them out. They crush them completely. Microsoft did this with Netscape Navigator. Google is doing this constantly. Facebook's doing it with Instagram. You destroy your enemy, you incorporate them so they can't challenge you anymore. So it's kind of a business dynamic. I mean, if you had somebody out there who is trying to ruin your life, then that law might apply. It has to be in a very strong situation where it's kind of life or death, or they're trying to really destroy your reputation. And then in that case, you can't be naive, and you have to go full throttle to get rid of them. You have to find some way of making it clear that they can't go this far, you know? And I talk in the War book about deterrence, about showing your strength to an enemy and showing how strong and that you are willing to do something nasty, and that'll make them retreat because they're afraid of that. But the other side is that we often make the mistake. You're talking about law number 2 in the 48 laws about your friends and enemies, about never put too much trust in friends, always use enemies. I think that's what you're referring to. The thing is, if you're in business or you have, you know, a rock band or something, your first instinct is to hire people that you're friends, that you know, that you're familiar with. And that's always very dangerous, because with friends and acquaintances come all kinds of egos and problems, and it gets very emotional. It's like a relationship. The best thing to do is to work with someone who was your enemy, to say, look, we didn't agree about anything in the past. I know you hate my guts, but I respect you, and I think I'd like you to work for me or work with me on this project, etc. Doing that, you shift the dynamic. You take somebody who maybe is very wary and suspicious of you, and you overwhelm them with an emotion that turns them around, and they go, maybe Alexis isn't so bad after all, you know? And they're motivated to work for you, whereas your friend is not motivated to impress you. Your friend wants you to impress them, to be, you know, to be a friend, whereas the enemy wants to prove themselves that they are worthy of the show of respect that you suddenly gave them. It's a reverse psychology that's extremely powerful. And, you know, I got that from Abraham Lincoln, because he said, when I forgive an enemy or I work with an enemy, they're no longer my enemy, right? So normally in war, you want to kill them, you want to bloody them, and then there's a price to pay and you get bloodied a little bit. But when you do this strategy, which is very Sun Tzu-like, and you're basically saying you forgive them and you want to work with them, they're no longer your enemy. You've gotten rid of an enemy. You didn't have to kill anybody. You didn't have to do any bloodshed. You know, bloodless victories are the greatest victories of all, according to Sun Tzu. And that's what, you know, turning an enemy into a friend will do for you.
Okay. It's like in that chapter where you talk about in power, winning their hearts over.
Yeah.
And rather than killing them, you win their hearts over, and that's
very powerful.
Yeah. Now I got 2 more questions, Robert.
Okay.
2 more. What are your top 3 historical figures and why? Because I know you like, you know, I know you have a lot, Robert, but
I do have a lot. Well, obviously, I'd have to have Machiavelli, because, you know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a kindred spirit, and I really, really love his story. So people have this idea that Machiavelli was this really evil, conniving person, very powerful, etc., who was just basically an evil figure. It's not true. He was a diplomat, a very low-level diplomat. He wasn't powerful at all, but he had seen a lot. He was a diplomat for the Republic of Florence, so he traveled on various missions for the Republic of Florence, and he saw a lot, and he observed, and he was a true man of the Renaissance. So not only did he write The Prince, he wrote a history of Florence, which was one of his best books, the Florentine Histories. He also wrote poetry, really nice poetry. He was an incredible seducer of women, even though he was very physically not attractive at all. And he wrote one of the most wicked plays that have ever been written ever, a play that completely ridiculed the Catholic Church, that was so disrespectful of sacred things. And when you read the book, you can't believe he got away with it. He had an incredible sense of humor. So Machiavelli would be high up on that list. I'd have to choose like a really beautiful woman in history that I would want to meet. Probably Cleopatra. I mean, you know, who else should be the most legendary?
Queen Elizabeth?
Huh?
Queen Elizabeth, you talked a lot about her.
She wasn't quite so seductive.
Okay.
But the thing about Cleopatra was I have a particular weakness for very intelligent women. I like women who are kind of strong and intelligent. You know, I think it's really seductive to see a form of female intelligence, which is different from male intelligence, not inferior or superior, just different.
Mhm.
And she was incredibly intelligent, incredibly crafty, but really smart, incredibly well read. She had read all the books of all the great Greek philosophers. Um, and she was just this very interesting, dramatic person who knew how to create an incredible sense of theater to whatever she did. And I'm someone who's very kind of, I have a great weakness for people like that who are theatrical, particularly women. So
Mhm.
I would probably like to meet her to see if the reality was true, because supposedly she wasn't the most beautiful woman in the world. She had a bit of a beak. And yeah, we don't know, but we don't have any images from her. The only images we have of her are on coins. And but we have some people who describe that she had a bit of a nose, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just would be very excited and interested to meet her. And then the third, I would probably want to meet Leonardo da Vinci.
Let's go! I knew it because Mastery is based on Leonardo. Sorry
Um,
for
he was
scaring you.
so weird, you know, and I like weird people. You know, I've always, ever since I was a rock and roll kid, I always liked that line of Jimi Hendrix, wave your freak flag high. So Leonardo, he kind of waved his freak flag high.
Oh, he
He
was
was
free.
so different. There was nobody else like him, and he knew it, and he wasn't afraid of it. And you know, he was so far ahead of his time. You know, back in those days, people treated animals as if they had no soul, because that's what Christianity believed. They were just these things that you could use. But Leonardo da Vinci believed animals had souls. He literally said as much. And he would go into the marketplace in the cities that he was in. People would sell birds in cages. He would buy them and then he would set the birds free. He had tremendous empathy for animals, which was way ahead of his time. He had his interest in science. He designed things like he designed a tank in one of his drawings. He designed an airplane. He designed things of warfare and architectural things. Of course, he never made them, but they were way ahead of his time. He was so strange and uncanny, almost as if he was a god, or almost as if he had divine powers. And I would have liked to meet him and know him to see, because supposedly he was also a very, very charming person
Yeah.
who was a great musician who played the equivalent of the guitar and would sing and he would write poetry, etc. He was a true Renaissance man. So I would probably choose him as my third person.
Yeah.
That'd be quite a threesome right there, though.
I think he's the greatest master of them all. Like he's just he was the embodiment of genius. You know, like it's just incomprehensible how somebody like that could have existed. You know, like
And, you should go, since you're in London. Maybe you already have. I can't remember if it's the National Gallery or if it's the British Museum. I think it's the National Gallery. They have the most magnificent Leonardo da Vinci painting of all. I don't remember the title. I think it's The Virgin and the Rocks.
sorry.
It's the most surreal painting. I stood there last time I was in London. I stood in front of it for several hours. I was so entranced. Anyway, just now that you're in London,
No, I saw it. I went to draw it with my drawing pad. I went and drew his because when
um,
you draw let me tell you something, Robert. When you draw Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, you see it from a whole nother level. This dude was like a camera, like the optics, like the little lighting. I mean, for the like this guy has so much love for everything that he touched. That's
yeah,
the one thing I envy, Robert, is how much love he had for everything. You know, like it's I can't do that. You know?
yeah, you can, you can.
How do you become that? Like how do not him, but how do you become this curious, absorbing person? I mean, how do you develop that discipline? That's my problem that I have with that.
You read Mastery.
Oh, yeah, I'm in that. No, man, I swear to God, Robert, that book transformed me, man.
Okay.
It's you know, it's funny. I'm not even halfway done. I your books, I take I'm a slow reader with your books, man.
Oh,
I
that's good.
I chew my food, you know, like
Yeah, that's good.
for like 2 years I've been reading The Laws of Human Nature, and I'm like halfway done. You know,
Oh, okay, okay. I respect that.
you know, Robert. All right, man, Robert, man. I'm so happy that you
Oh,
came on and you talk to my subscribers, man. Like they say that I'm like your biggest spokesperson. I'm always talking about your books.
wow, wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's I've sent so many people to your books, man. I don't even give a fuck about the commission. I don't care. Don't even give me anything in the Amazon. I just want them to read your books because
Uh,
yeah, man. It's
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Well, someday I'll meet you. I hope that would be nice.
man. Robert, I'm gonna paint you, and I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a nice little painting of you because I it's because of you I've been painting, dude. So why not paint the person who
All right,
inspired?
all right. Well, here's one suggestion.
What's up?
Take some shrooms and then paint me.
Oh, Robert, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that. Let's go. I will do that 100%.
That's what I want to see. Okay.
I'll send it to you. I mean, I would love to meet you. By the way, your protege, what's his name?
Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was like, when he wrote his book and Ego is the Enemy, I was like, why would I read his book? I'll just read Robert's books.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong, man. Like, he's
Good.
legit, man. You whatever comes, it's like whatever comes from you is real, you know? Like, and that's the difference between you and all the other authors out there. Your books, there's a soul to your books that there
Thank
isn't in any other book, man. I don't want to flatter you too much because you,
That's right.
you know,
I'm eating it up.
yeah, man. Well deserved, man. Well deserved, man. Anything else you want to say before you leave, man? I mean, I don't know.
I think we've covered everything. It was a really fun interview. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm gonna pause it, end it, and then I can say bye to you without this. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you love to have exclusive videos that I don't post on YouTube? Wouldn't you love to be able to ask me any question and I make a video based on that? Wouldn't you love to have exclusive courses, exclusive seminars that I'll be posting on Patreon from time to time, and I will not be posting on YouTube? Wouldn't you like to know about that? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I want you guys to check out my new Patreon account, Mindful Attraction. Become part of the Mindful Gang. Become part of the movement, wherein I will be teaching you guys some dark psychological tactics, obviously, which is what makes me unique, to be quite honest with you. But also, I'll be answering a lot of your questions. These videos are based on the live streams that I'll be having. I'll be posting these kind of videos. I'll be posting full live streams and the audio version of it so that you could download it yourself. Right? As you can see, these videos are not on YouTube, and nor will they ever be on YouTube, because this is only for the exclusive Patreon gang. That's right, for the Patreon gang, ladies and gentlemen. Right? So there are a few tiers for this one. You got the freeloader, no more. In general, you become a Patreon gang. All right, you become a Patreon gang by just donating $1. Right? After that, you get the purposeful gang. Right, where you get exclusive access to all of the video, right? And after that, you got the Mindful Gang, ladies and gentlemen, where I'll put your name as credits in every one of my videos and access to all the videos, right? After that, you got the Like a Boss, where not only do you get my gratitude, not only do you get access to the video and credits, but also you get to ask one question, people. Okay, you get to ask one question per month, right? And I'll make a video based on it, and I'll thank you and pray for you. First of all, I'll pray for everybody. Okay, I pray. I'm not putting prayer as something that you gotta pay for. All right, the Lord would not be happy if I did that. After that, you become the Mindful Master, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, the Mindful Master, and in that, I'll personally draw a portrait of you. That's right, people, a portrait of you. If you want to see how my portraits look like, you'll see it right now. I'll personally draw a portrait of you, right? And I'll send it to you, okay? Now, all of this is for people who want to support the channel. For people who one day this channel will close one day. I'm not gonna lie, people. YouTube will one day close this channel. But this is for people who want to support it, who want to become part of the movement, who wanna learn about people who get manipulated, who want to avoid manipulation, who want to get that guided chase, no matter who you are.
there's a video for you in here. All right, now go in there. I'll see you inside. Send me a message. I'll read it and I'll respond to you. Okay, see you guys inside. Bye bye.